Welcome back to the MIRE pregame show. We are getting set for boys basketball. Tip-off against Ridge coming up at 7 o'clock. We are joined by the head coach of the Montgomery Cougars, the 2-0 Montgomery Cougars.
2-0, yes.
Kris
Sounds
Grundy.
good. Sounds good. What's up, Keith? How are you, sir?
Well, I got to tell you that we received a little criticism after the first interview that we did. Some folks had an issue with my wardrobe, so I went to the wardrobe folks in the back and I said, all right, I need a suit this time. And they said, we have something classier than a suit for you.
It looks like you're pulling it off.
You know,
to you, Mr. Rierig, there it is, bro. You complained about jeans, and now you get that. So this one's on you.
Coach, the other night at Hillsborough, a pretty convincing win. There were, if you wanted to put question marks to some of the stuff that was happening at Peaburg, 2 for 15 from the outside, that kind of thing, put a lot of those questions to bed.
Yeah, no, we played well. The kids. The kids answered the call for sure. It's riding back from Peaburg. I had actually gotten a text from Kyle Howard just saying, he didn't know if mentally maybe kids were putting a little bit too much pressure on them, on the team and on themselves. And then Manigault hits the first three at Phillipsburg, and people are like, oh boy, here we go again. And then you saw the exact reverse of that. The Hillsborough game starts. Kev drives the ball real hard. That we win the opening tip. Kev drives the ball real hard to the basket, picks up a charge, which we're fine with. That's an aggressive mistake. Hillsborough comes down, box and hits a three at the top of the key, and you're like, oh boy, it's going to be a tight one. And then from that point on, it's a 21-8 run for the rest of the first quarter, and it could have been a lot worse, as everybody knows who was there, just in that first quarter, but. Yeah, kids responded. I was really, really proud of them. So hopefully we can carry that momentum into tonight.
Kevin Vermelt, 13 points in the first quarter, about as impressive a first 8 minutes as I've seen from him. What was it like for you guys over on the sideline?
Oh, it was great. It was great. I mean, to see your guys get going, and that's the thing about this team. We have so many options. We have so many guys who can score it that. You never know whose turn it's going to be. But we talked about, after the Phillipsburg game, how important Kyle Howard has been. And again, he was just really, really consistent against Hillsborough. So Kev had got us off to a to a really good start, 13 of our 21. And then he became a facilitator, started getting rebounds, assists, handling the ball like he always does. And then it was some other guys' turn to step up. But I just thought Kyle, again, was just really, really consistent for us, scoring and rebounding and getting steals and defending. That Draymond Green role that we always talk about for him.
One of the things I thought was it felt purposeful anyway, was you guys didn't settle for outside shots. We were commenting on a couple of times that there were some dribble handoffs that just coming off of a screen, a naturally created screen with that dribble handoff, where this might be a game where down the road they just turn and pull from there.
Right.
And Riley, I was giving him a hard time yesterday. I was like,
many people are.
I was like, you really got into the lane a bunch yesterday. You want to hoist some of those up.
Yeah, exactly.
Purposeful in that?
Yeah, you know what? It's it's a good thing, as a coach when you say things and the guys listen to it. So I had told the fellas in the summer, and then again when we had our preseason team get together, where we rented out a local place, and we had food and video games, and the kids just kind of hung out. But I had told them when I gave a talk there that one of my fears we're such a good outside shooting team, but what is going to happen when the shots aren't falling? And we saw that versus Phillipsburg. The shots weren't falling, but we gutted out a really, really tough overtime win, a win that looks even better because on Tuesday night when we were playing Hillsborough, Bridgewater went up to Phillipsburg and lost by 30, which was a very eye-opening score for a lot of people. But then you come into the Hillsborough game, and you're absolutely right. We had a lot of open looks that the kids just attacked, and found each other. I mean, you think to the second quarter. I think it was the second quarter, maybe it was the first quarter, doesn't matter. Kris Grundy, they tried to go zone because we were playing really, really well against their man-to-man, and Rubio catches the ball at the foul line. And we talk all the time about you don't just cut versus man-to-man, you got to cut versus zone too. And Ben Ubeck with a hard cut from the baseline, Kris with a shovel pass, Ben for a layup. So the cutting and the attacking mentality was really on display on Tuesday for sure.
Defensively, it was funny because Pogue loves defense. He could play defense all day and never play offense and be totally happy. And it makes for me to be able to break his stones a little bit, which is great. I felt the first quarter was so dominant, and then just the kind of the feeling of the game as it went on was I was like, okay, pulled back a little bit there in the second quarter, and then he said to me at halftime, he goes, no, there was no pullback there. Would you guys give up 8 points in the second quarter or something like that? It was either 8 or 10 or something like that, and I was like, oh my goodness, you're correct. That it was a quarter that didn't feel dominant, and then you look up and you only give up 8 points.
Yes,
that's got to be pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, our defense was really, really top notch in the first half. Second half, we pulled back a little bit. I mean, you take away Hillsborough's 2 bank threes, and it's a 24-point game at halftime. Yeah, I mean, defense, as you know, man, you've been doing this a long time with me. Defense is our calling card, and we really, really brought the defensive intensity for 8.5 quarters now. Between Phillipsburg and overtime and Hillsborough, and you just saw, and no disrespect to Hillsborough, obviously, but you just saw how by like 5 minutes to go in the second quarter, they were just exhausted because we just keep coming, man. We just keep coming. We keep, turning the point guard 2 or 3 times before half court, and that's draining. And then you got to work to get open, and then you get the ball, and is a double team coming? Is a double team not coming? Are they going to trap the corner? Are they in man? Are they in a matchup? Are they in this? Are they in that? So, it's defense is going to be how we win games, and this year, we have a lot of scorers to go along with that defense. So hopefully that's going to translate to good things.
There was something that I had commented on in the fourth quarter, as you kind of emptied the bench a little bit, that. We've talked about this over the years as well, but it feels like a different conversation sometimes when we, kind of inject different personalities into it. Purposefully, you play young guys, and you see Curry coming off the bench in the fourth quarter, but we got to talk about another young guy that was in the game way before that. Talk about Kris Grundy a little bit. I was incredibly impressed with what he brought for you.
Yep. He, like I told you. We have our role meetings, and myself and Coach Molars told Kris that you're going to get better every day. You're going to get better every day. And his practice on Monday was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. We played against some really, really good alumni, guys that are playing in college. And Kris didn't back down, man. He hit a couple threes. He had some baseline jumpers. He ripped and scored, and the confidence is growing, man. The confidence is growing, and fortunately for us, he's only a sophomore. He's only a sophomore, and he's already good. And by March, when we need him to be really good, he's going to be really good.
It's a pretty interesting thing. I watched the Ben Hubox 3 a couple of different times because I said, does that look just like a guy that shouldn't be the second or third guy off the bench at times, depending on how the rotation is going? Because he could fill it up.
Yeah, he could score. It's every year I feel like Coach Bassford says, hey, this is going to be your guy. This guy's going to score. He's going to be able to give us valuable minutes. 2 years ago it was Joe. And Joe was really, really good for Coach Bassford as a sophomore. Playing JV. I mean, he played JV his freshman and sophomore year, but sophomore year he was really Coach Bassford's go-to guy on the JV level. And he told me going into last season, hey, Joe's going to be a big piece to what we do. And you think back to the Phillipsburg game at home last year where he turned that game, did a complete 180, and then he followed that up with the Franklin effort where he hits the 3 to send us to overtime. And this year, obviously, he's been unbelievable. But he said the same thing about Ben. He goes, Coach, I'm telling you, man, he's going to score. He is going to score. And there's times in practice where Ben will go off for, 7, 9, 11 points in a row. and it's really, really important to have like a scoring punch off the bench. And we have a scoring punch off the bench. We have in Ben, we have that defensive intimidator whose offensive game is obviously coming, as we all saw versus Hillsborough and Kris. And then you just have two really, really solid defenders in Will Maripodi and Andrew Davino, who came into the game and they played their 5 to 10 minutes, and I told them, I said, your role is, I never know how much time you're going to play, but when you get in there, you just go all out and you play that defense the way we need you to play it. And that's exactly what they did.
I wasn't even going to talk about it because I didn't know if we would get it to be relevant today, but since you brought it up, I will go there. I commented the other day that Davino, to me, is the guy that is capable of covering that twitchy point guard that can oftentimes be so difficult to cover. Is that how you see his role being?
Yeah, I mean, I told Andrew during his role meeting, we said, listen, we never know when your number's going to be called, and when it is called, it may be for a minute, it may be for 4 minutes, we don't know. So just be ready. And against Phillipsburg, he didn't get into the game, but you go back and you watch the film, and I don't know if other coaches do this, but we're, because we preach family all the time and everybody buying in, we do a lot of bench watching when we're watching film. Who's into the game, who isn't into the game, who looks like they'd rather be on the bus, traveling back home. And it never ceases to amaze me how into the game our entire basketball family is, whether it's parents in the stands, alumni who are there, JV players, guys that haven't taken their warm-ups off yet, and Andrew was going nuts on the sideline, and came to work on Saturday, came to work on Monday, and then it was his time on Tuesday early, and he went in there and did exactly what we knew he was going to do and what he's capable of doing, which is play really, really tough defense. Handle the ball a little bit for us, reverse it. He had one real nice attack dribble that they hit him with a travel for, but that would have been a nice layup for him. But yeah, he did really, really well for us.
So let's talk a little bit about Ridge.
Sure.
At least I've noticed through the years that anybody can be a good coach when you have Max Mahoney. You know what I mean? And you have just a guy who's just good, physically dominant and taking over. But Brian Feith is a guy who, in my opinion, one of the better coaches around for sure, because he wasn't just ever good when he had the Max Mahoneys of the world. So no matter year in and year out, I always feel like Ridge is going to be a team that comes in and brings it. Mm-hmm. And what are we going to expect from them tonight, and kind of how good are they this year?
Yeah, Coach Feith is a phenomenal coach, and you always know that you're going to get really, really tough defense with Ridge. Coach Feith prides himself on his man-to-man defense. He denies that guard-to-wing pass really, really hard. And it's tough to get into whatever it is you want to do offensively because they're so tough defensively. So we worked on different types of pressure releases and all that type of stuff. So hopefully we'll be able to take advantage of that and do what we worked on yesterday. But they're good. They're good. They got punched in the mouth a little bit opening night against Immaculata. Immaculata got really, really hot. We're hitting shots from all over the place, and Immaculata's good. They're definitely good. So, but they're going to come in tonight. They have really strong guard play. They have a kid number 50, Zima, who's 6'5", 6'6" in that area, and he does a really good job for them on the inside. Their point guard number 15 handles the ball really, really well. Is an attack type point guard. He'll give you a little shake at the top of the key or go between his legs a few times, and then he'll attack. Herrera, number 25, struggled against Immaculata, but you can tell he can play. He had a lot of shots that rimmed out, so he's gonna be real good. And then Peichel, who's the Rutgers head coach's kid, does a good job for them defensively. They have another kid, number 2, who's their 5th starter, who can shoot it really, really well if you let him set his feet. So they're tough, and he plays a lot of guys. He plays a lot of guys. He has 2 freshmen that come in off the bench, number 14 and another big. So they're definitely going to be ready. And you mentioned it. I mean, it's people want to make the Hillsborough Montgomery rivalry thing, and I've been here 17 years now, and I've never felt it just because I didn't grow up here, and it just hasn't felt like it for me. Not saying that it's not there, because I know that it is. I got a lot of texts and emails after we beat Hillsborough on Tuesday night. So I know that that is still there for some people, but I feel like since I've been here for the last 17 years, that's the rivalry that people talk about is Ridge, whether it's basketball or football or hockey back in the day. There's that rivalry with Ridge. So they're going to come in here excited and looking to get their first win of the year for sure.
Last thing from me, coming home for the first time.
Yep. Very excited.
Yeah. What does it mean for you guys?
Yeah, we're pumped, man. We're very, very excited. Get to see the new court for the first time in gameplay. I mean, obviously we practice on it, we play on it a ton in the summer, as you know, with all the stuff that we do. But really, really excited to get home. Hopefully, a lot of students are here. Hopefully, a lot of community is here. But you know what? We always say to our guys, whether there's one person here or 1,000 people here, we're playing for the people here, the people that have worn the colors before us. We're playing for our family.
Coach, good luck tonight. Hopefully we'll get a win.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. We'll be back rest of the MIRE pregame show right after this. Tip-off coming up against Ridge. Stick with us. You're caught in the MIRE. It's the Montgomery Internet Radio Experience.